What makes a tank movie feel real? Is it the roar of the engine, the cramped metal walls, or the quiet look a crew shares before they move forward? Somewhere in the middle of all that noise and fear, a few films manage to show the truth without dressing it up. And as we roll through this list, you might notice one thing. Realism is never where most people expect it to be. Number 15. Fury 2014. Two words set the tone from the first frame. Worn steel. Fury is not a shiny war film. It is a mud-soaked crawl through the final weeks of the conflict in Europe, when tank crews were running on fumes and fear. The story follows a Sherman crew led by Brad Pitt, but the real star is the pressure inside that cramped metal shell. Every clank, every shake, every moment of silence feels emotionally heavy. The production used real tanks, real mud, and real exhaustion. The crew trained with historians and spent days inside a Sherman so the actors looked naturally tired. The film even used the last operational Tiger tank in the world for one of the most talked-about tank duels ever put on screen. Nothing looks polished. Nothing feels easy. The radio chatter, the grime, the slow loading process, everything adds weight to the drama. Some viewers said it was too heavy. Real veterans said it came close to the uneasy rhythm of an actual tank crew. Fury does not try to impress you. It tries to make you feel the strain of surviving one more day. That is what makes it unforgettable. Number 14. The Beast of War, 1988. The Beast of War is the kind of film people whisper about instead of praise loudly. Set during the conflict in Afghanistan, it follows a lost Soviet tank crew trying to survive while local fighters close in around them. The story is intense, but what makes it stand out is the uncomfortable honesty. The tank becomes a rolling trap, part shield and part prison. Each scene tightens the feeling that the crew is running out of options. The film was made by an American team but used real former tank operators to guide the cast. That decision paid off. The actors move like people who actually lived inside a steel giant. They duck instinctively, brace correctly, and argue over mechanical issues that real crews face. Nothing feels staged. The terrain is harsh, the tension is constant, and the tank battles carry a sense of panic instead of showmanship. This movie never found huge audiences when it was released. It was too grounded, too blunt, and not patriotic enough for its time. But soldiers who served in armored units slowly turned it into a legend. They saw truth in the crew's fear, loyalty, and mistakes. The Beast of War is not flashy. It is raw, thoughtful, and far more real than most movies ever dare to be. Number 13. Lebanon, 2009. Lebanon is not a traditional tank movie. It is a pressure chamber filmed from inside a single armored vehicle during the early hours of a conflict. Everything outside is seen through one viewfinder. That choice changes everything. Instead of grand shots of moving armor, you get the world through a narrow circle. Bright flashes, blurry movements, sudden danger. It is disorienting by design, and that is exactly how the director wanted it. The film's creator served as a tank gunner, and that lived experience shows in every moment. You hear the constant humming, the metal groans, the uncertain breathing inside the turret. The actors worked in harsh conditions inside a replica tank that shook, rattled, and baked under studio lights. The goal was to create discomfort, and it works. You do not watch these characters. You feel trapped beside them. Some viewers found the method too tight, too closed, but veterans praised it for capturing a truth most films avoid. Tank battles are not always sweeping and heroic. Sometimes they are blind guesses, shaky calls, and hope mixed with worry. Lebanon strips away the wide battlefield view and replaces it with something far more real. It shows you how small a tank crew's world becomes when everything depends on one decision. Number 12. Sahara, 1943. Sahara is proof that old films can feel surprisingly real. Made during the conflict itself, it follows a small tank crew crossing the desert with limited water, limited support, and rising danger at every turn. Humphrey Bogart plays the commander, but this is not a glamour role. The story focuses on the daily grind of keeping a tank alive in harsh desert heat. The dryness, the mechanical strain, the exhaustion all hit harder than expected from a film of this age. Because it was produced during the actual conflict, Sahara used real vehicles, real uniforms and real military advisors who knew the desert firsthand. They pushed for accuracy, and the result shows. The tank moves slowly, struggles in sand, and becomes the crew's entire world. You feel the weight inside the armor as they ration water and try to keep moving while the desert steals their strength. Despite being filmed in the United States instead of North Africa, the environment looks convincing. The story avoids easy hero moments and instead highlights teamwork, patience, and the uncertain balance between survival and breakdown. Sahara remains respected not because it is big, but because it is honest. A tank does not care how brave you are. It only cares whether it can keep moving in the heat. Number 11. White Tiger 2012. White Tiger is one of the strangest and most memorable tank films ever made. On the surface, it is about a Soviet tanker who survives a near-fatal incident and returns with a mission to track down a mysterious German tank known as the White Tiger. But beneath the story lies something deeper. The tank becomes a symbol, a legend passed through terrified whispers, the kind of tale soldiers tell when machinery feels alive. The film uses real armored vehicles and stages battles with meticulous attention to how tanks move, turn, and misfire. Nothing is sped up, nothing is cleaned up for style. The noise, the smoke, and the careful coordination show how difficult it is to operate such a machine under pressure. The crew inside speaks quietly, works fast, and reacts like people who have spent their lives in dangerous metal corridors. What sets the film apart is its mood. It treats tank warfare as something haunted by memory. You can feel the strain, the cold air, the nerves inside the turret. Some viewers found the symbolic approach confusing, but many tank crews appreciated it for capturing something emotional that most films miss. White Tiger does not chase realism through facts alone. It does it through feeling, and feelings often tell the truer story. Number 10. The Battle of Neretva from 1969. The Battle of Neretva is not just a war film, it is a thunderstorm built from smoke, steel, and thousands of extras moving across landscapes that look too real to be staged. This Yugoslav production became one of the most ambitious armored films of its era, calling on national military forces to supply real tanks, real artillery, and even real bridge demolitions. Nothing in this movie feels small. Every frame is filled with motion, noise, and the heavy crunch of vehicles carving through mud and rubble. The director convinced military officials to destroy an actual bridge for the cameras, creating a scene that would become legendary. Crews worked in freezing conditions. Actors ran beside tanks that kicked up dirt and debris. It was dangerous filming, the kind that would never be allowed today, and that danger shows on screen. The tension is not staged. It looks like history replaying itself with full force. Tank experts still respect how the film captured the weight and chaos of large-scale armored movement. No modern trickery, no shortcuts, just raw machinery performing the way it actually did. At the time, the film stirred political debate because it showed hardship instead of easy triumph, but audiences responded to its honesty. The Battle of Neretva remains a milestone because it treats tanks not as props, but as rolling giants that reshape the ground beneath them. That realism is what makes the film unforgettable. Number 9. Kelly's Heroes from 1970. Kelly's Heroes is the closest thing to a heist movie hidden inside a war film, yet its tank accuracy is surprisingly strong. The story follows a group of soldiers who decide to sneak behind the lines to recover gold, using a group of Sherman tanks to push their way through. It sounds lighthearted, and at times it is, but the mechanical details are some of the best ever filmed. Real tanks were used throughout production, and their slow, rumbling movement grounds the entire story. Instead of treating tanks as unstoppable machines, the film shows them as temperamental and heavy, operated by crews who sweat, argue, and improvise their way forward. The dynamic between characters and their tanks feels lived in, not performed. They worry about engine trouble. They plan routes based on terrain. They move with caution instead of the usual movie sprint. Real tank crews have praised this film for those small truths. The movie also benefits from memorable character moments, especially Donald Sutherland's laid-back tank commander, who became an unlikely favorite among real armored veterans. Behind the scenes, there were arguments over tone and pacing, but the technical team insisted on keeping the tank work realistic. That commitment shows. Kelly's Heroes stands as a rare mix of humor, grit, and grounded mechanical authenticity. It proves that even a playful story can honor the real experience of tank crews. Number 8. Cross of Iron from 1977. Cross of Iron is the kind of movie that slams into you from the very first scene. Directed by Sam Peckinpah, it focuses on German soldiers fighting on the Eastern Front, and its portrayal of tank warfare is anything but clean. The battles are gritty, chaotic, and full of mechanical failures. Tanks struggle through mud, clatter through ruins, and move with the painful slowness that real crews know far too well. The film refuses to make anything smooth because nothing on the Eastern Front ever was. Peckinpah insisted on using real armored vehicles and staging clashes with as little staging as possible. Mud splattered the camera lenses. Engines overheated. Tracks slipped. Instead of stopping the scenes, the director kept rolling. The raw imperfections became part of the film's identity. Actors performed inside moving vehicles, sweating in cramped spaces, dealing with smoke and noise that made every scene feel dangerous. What makes Cross of Iron so respected is its refusal to decorate the truth. It shows conflict as something heavy and exhausting. Crews argue, commanders make rushed decisions, and tanks become symbols of survival rather than power. Real armored veterans praise the film for capturing the emotional reality of working inside steel giants. It is messy, relentless, and honest. Cross of Iron is not just a war movie, it is a portrait of endurance. Number 7. Patton from 1970. Patton is best known for George C. Scott's commanding performance, but ask any tank crew what stands out, and they will tell you it is the scale. Patton delivers fully staged armored movements with real tanks, real soldiers, and real locations stretching across dusty landscapes in Spain. These sequences capture the thunderous rhythm of an entire division on the move. Tracks grind, engines growl, and formations roll forward with a visual weight that digital effects cannot imitate. The production used actual military units to direct the armored scenes, meaning every maneuver reflects a real tactic. Tanks move in formation rather than rushing ahead like action movie racers. They pause, reposition, and communicate through signals. The film's sound design works almost too well, filling scenes with metallic echoes and low rumbles that give the vehicles presence. But Patton's realism extends beyond mechanics. The story explores the strange balance between ambition and responsibility. The general's fascination with armored mobility shaped entire campaigns, and the film highlights how tank strategy changed the pace of modern conflict. Behind the scenes, there were arguments about portraying Patton's flaws, but the final result created a layered portrait that honors both the machine and the people who command it. Tank crews still study the film for its accuracy and formation movement. Patton is a reminder that strategy can be as dramatic as any battle. Number 6. The Tanks Are Coming from 1951. Before big-budget war epics existed, The Tanks Are Coming quietly delivered a surprisingly grounded look at armored life. Produced with heavy support from the United States Army, the film used real Sherman tanks and actual operators to guide the actors. As a result, the movement inside the armored compartments feels natural. The chatter is authentic, the mechanical tasks look real, and the nervous tension of first-time crew members comes through clearly. The film follows a young driver learning the rhythm of tank operations. Instead of rushing into non-stop action, it shows the training, the teamwork, and the problem-solving that go into making a tank function. You see mistakes, adjustments, and the slow build of confidence. For many viewers at the time, this was their first real look at how tank crews lived. Because it was made so soon after the conflict, the practical knowledge was fresh. Advisors insisted on accuracy, from gear handling to turret movement. Even small details like how the crew braces during rough terrain were captured correctly. The film may feel quieter than later tank movies, but its honesty gives it impact. Real crews still appreciate this movie for treating tanks not as movie props, but as machines that require patience and teamwork. The Tanks Are Coming remains a respectful window into an era when armored warfare was still new and the people inside the steel were learning as they went. Number 5. Stalingrad from 1993. Stalingrad is not just a movie. It is an avalanche of cold exhaustion and collapsing hope. This German production throws you straight into the bone-chilling winter on the Eastern Front, where armored crews move through ruins that swallow sound and light. The tanks in this film do not glide. They grind, choke on snow, and struggle around debris just as they did in real life. Nothing moves easily in Stalingrad, and that friction becomes part of the story. The film was shot in harsh winter conditions to match the real environment soldiers faced. Actors worked in freezing temperatures, their breath fogging the air as they climbed over ice-covered armor. Tanks often broke down during shooting, but instead of delaying scenes, the director embraced the imperfections. The difficulties made every moment feel more authentic. Stalingrad is respected by armored veterans because it shows what winter really does to steel and spirit. Engines stall, treads slip, crew members speak in worn voices. There is no glamour, only survival. The tank scenes highlight how heavy these machines become when the world around them turns against them. The tension comes not just from opposing forces, but from the environment itself. This film refuses to look away from hardship. Instead, it builds a portrait of armored warfare that feels brutally honest. For many viewers, Stalingrad remains one of the most powerful Winterset war films ever created. Number 4. T-34 2018. T-34 is the kind of film that makes you grip your seat even before the first tank engine rumbles. Set during the Second World War, it follows a young Soviet officer who refuses to give up, even after being captured. The heart of the story emerges when he and a small group escape captivity by stealing a T-34 and using it as both shield and symbol of defiance. The energy is sharp, fast, and surprisingly grounded for a modern action film. The movie uses restored tanks and carefully researched movements to make the armored scenes feel real. You hear the grind of gears, the slow turn of the turret, and the echo inside the steel hull. When the tank moves, it has weight. When it fires, it feels controlled instead of flashy. Even the stylized slow-motion shots serve a purpose, showing how fast decisions must be made in tight quarters. Behind the scenes, the crew worked with historians to replicate uniforms, interior layouts, and battlefield conditions. The result is a blend of realism and cinematic flair that audiences responded to instantly. While the film has brisk pacing and polished visuals, it never loses the human element. The camaraderie inside the tank is natural and warm, creating emotional stakes that make each battle matter. T-34 became a massive success because it respects both the machine and the people inside it. It is one of the rare modern war films that balances spectacle with authenticity. Number 3. Tank Battalion from 1958. Tank Battalion may not have the explosive scale of newer films, but its realistic look at armored crew life turned it into a quiet classic. Set during the Korean conflict, the movie follows a crew that must navigate mechanical issues, changing orders, and rising worry as the terrain becomes unforgiving. Instead of dramatic flair, the film leans into grounded details that reflect what real tankers experience every day. The result is authentic and surprisingly emotional. Because the film was made in the 1950s, many of the people involved had first-hand knowledge of tank operations. That experience shows. Actors handle controls correctly, brace their bodies realistically, and speak like people who know the rhythm of armored teamwork. The tanks move with accurate slowness, making the landscape feel larger and more dangerous. The movie avoids flashy hero moments. Instead, it highlights problem-solving, patience, and the constant adjustments tank crews must make. Viewers see the challenges of keeping a machine running under pressure, from stalling engines to difficult terrain. Real veterans appreciated how the film portrays the crew as a family built through shared duty rather than dramatic speeches. Tank Battalion endures because it treats the machine with respect and the crew with compassion. It captures a moment in time when armored warfare was changing, and it honors the people who made that change possible. Number 2. The Bridge at Remagen from 1969. The bridge at Remagen tells the story of a crucial crossing near the end of the Second World War, but its real power lies in how it portrays chaos. The film stages armored scenes with real tanks, real explosions, and real danger. During production, the cast and crew found themselves unexpectedly caught in political unrest when filming in Czechoslovakia was disrupted by rising tensions. That turmoil bled into the film's energy, giving it an unpredictable edge. The tank scenes feel immediate because the crew used real American armored vehicles and filmed on bridges designed to collapse safely but still dramatically. You can see dust, sparks, and shaking metal, all created without digital tricks. The tanks do not move quickly or cleanly. They lumber forward, pushing through obstacles with a weight that modern films often overlook. The story refuses to paint clean lines between right and wrong. Both sides feel exhausted and uncertain, and the tank crews reflect that. They are not invincible. They are tired people trying to finish something that seems never-ending. Many soldiers and historians still admire this movie for capturing the pressure of fighting for a strategic point when time is running out. The bridge at Remagen remains one of the most grounded portrayals of late-war armored combat. It is tense, heavy, and filled with the kind of realism that stays with you. Number 1. The 800 2020. The 800 is a modern epic that rebuilt entire battle zones to recreate the struggle for a warehouse during the late 1930s. Tanks appear throughout the story as heavy, fearsome machines arriving at key moments. Instead of treating them as background, the movie shows how their presence changes everything. Each armored vehicle becomes a moving wall of pressure, and the people facing them show fear, courage, and split-second decision-making. The production used practical sets, large-scale miniatures, and historically accurate armored vehicles to recreate the era. When the tanks roll forward, dust rises, lights flicker, and the ground shakes. The sound design gives them presence even before they appear. Viewers feel the tension long before anyone inside the warehouse sees the armor coming. What makes this film stand out is its emotional scope. The tanks represent more than hardware. They carry symbolic weight, showing how modern machinery changed the pace of conflict. Crews inside the tanks move methodically, communicating with gestures and short bursts of dialogue that feel true to real armored teamwork. The 800 earned widespread praise for blending large-scale realism with deeply human storytelling. It is visually stunning, technically detailed, and emotionally intense. The tank sequences show just how much preparation, precision, and courage it takes to face moving steel under impossible odds. So what did these films teach us? That real tank realism is never just about noise or movement. It is about the weight inside the machine, the choices crews must make, and the world outside pressing in. These movies earned their place because they did not soften the truth. If you have a favorite from the list or one you think we missed, share it below. Remember to like and subscribe and keep exploring the stories hidden behind steel and courage.